Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crescent City Conjures YouTube channel. My name is Sin Elias. I'm the owner of Crescent City Conjure, but I'm also a perpetual student of spiritual occult magical traditions. And now that we've gotten that out the way, today what I want to talk about is divination. The topic is going to be on divination. I want to talk about divination because there are a lot of people out there who don't understand the importance of it or how it functions or its role in the context of creating a whole and practical spiritual practice. So before we jump into the how, because I want this to be a part of a series of how to at least read tarot cards, which is my form of divination, although there are a lot of forms of divination. The only one that I feel like I have the authority to teach is tarot. So, but we're going to talk about what divination is before we get into anything about the tarot specifically. Divination is a spiritual gift. It is something that I think you are born with. You can develop the talent or the skill of divination, but I think it's still important for you to be born with some aspect of the talent of divination. At its core, divination is the spiritual gift of being able to communicate with spirit. This most often shows itself up first in the form of dreams, having very vivid dreams, having dreams that are accurate and prophetic in nature. It can also show up by receiving information randomly about things that will happen, like flashes or even visions. Some people smell a certain scents like cigars or perfume, and they're able to gain information from that. Some people hear words or communication from something that is not physical. But the point of divination is that the person performing the divination has a natural ability to act as a bridge between the spiritual and the physical worlds. The point of becoming a good diviner is being able to understand that gift and work with it. Next, what I want to talk about are tools. So there are lots of forms of divination tools, but I think having the natural gift is the basis. Without that, you yourself cannot be a conduit, and no tool will function appropriately because the battery, which is you, is not active. So there are tarot cards, there are pendulums, there are coins, there are playing cards, Norman cards, there are bones. There are readings within traditional contexts like E5 readings or Apollo readings. People read with entrails, people read with eggs. All of these readings require an interpretation, and this is where the relationship with the reader and spirit are so important. The reader has to be able to hear spirit in order to interpret correctly. My tool, as I said, is tarot cards, but I want to talk a little bit about how specifically tarot cards work. So although the reader is the conduit, each tool works differently. Each tool reads differently, and the reader has to be able to know how the tool works. So there are three things that I look for in a reader, because these are the things I look for in readers in the shop. And in my experience, these are things that I found any good reader will have. And that is the knowledge or the natural gift or the natural ability, the ability to receive information. You can ask yourself questions or someone that you're interested in getting a reading by questions like, how do you experience your communication when you're reading? I believe that a good reader should be able to put into words their concept of what's happening when they read, such as I'm speaking to my ancestors or I'm speaking to a higher power, so on and so forth. Second is, are they knowledgeable with their tool? And so, yeah, you have your natural ability, but your tool functions in a certain way. And not all reading tools function in the same way. So are you familiar with your reading tool? How long have you been reading with this particular tool? Finally, is their ability to communicate. A good reader should have extremely good communication skills because it's absolutely necessary in sharing the information in a way that can be digested appropriately by the person receiving the reading. Another thing that I want to talk about is how readings project into the future. And so I often have the experience with clients of them trying to fill in the blanks themselves. So I'll pull cards or receive messages from Spirit and I'll say, whatever's coming up. Like, oh, it looks like you're going to be moving soon, or you're going to be having a baby soon, or there are financial problems that look like they're going to be showing up in the future. And the block that I'll get is, oh, I don't see how financial issues will show up. I'm pretty secure in my career. And the issue there is they're looking at their current perspective and applying it to a reading that is speaking about future tense. And so a reading is projecting into the future if you're using your tool to project into future circumstances, because that's not always the point of a reading. And once again, this goes back to what type of reading you're having, because even the outcome or what you're trying to discover changes greatly depending on what type of reading you're having. When it comes to tarot reading specifically, what they're doing is looking at current situations and seeing how they're most likely going to play out if you stay on the same road. I like to liken this to being a weatherman or reading weather systems. And so when you get your weather report for the week, what they're doing is looking at how the system is right now, and based on these different variables, the wind from the north or the heat from the east, stuff like that. And I'm not a weatherman, so forgive me. And how those things will affect the current situation and what will most likely happen because of that. That requires a lot of learning, because you have to know how all these different things come together to create an end result. That's very much like reading cards. You're looking at all these different systems and how they're moving together to produce this end result. So next, I want to talk about the space that you read in. This is my dedicated reading table. I always have a journal next to me when I'm reading, because there's pertinent information that I don't want to forget. Once again, a reader needs to be an effective communicator. For me to be as effective as I possibly can, I want to retain information. Sometimes in a reading, I am not fully present. And so I want to make sure that I record the information and that I can return to it as like a touchstone in a reading, so I don't get lost in my own information. Next, I usually have several reading tools around me when I'm doing a reading. So of course I have my tarot cards because that's my reading tool. And I have several because, once again, that's my reading tool. So I'm very interested in different tarot cards, decks. I also have shells so that I can do simple OB readings, very simple OB readings to get yes or no answers, because the tarot cards can be very in-depth sometimes. For instance, you'll ask a question, what's wrong with my love life? And the tarot cards will say, oh, it all began when they were 5. And that's not always the answers that the people need. Sometimes they need simple yes or no answers, straight up, direct answers, and I'll use the shells for that. I will sometimes change the deck that I'm using based on the question. So for instance, this deck is gilded, and I really like it for questions concerning money and income, although I can read on any deck. And I don't necessarily have to switch it out, but if Spirit tells me, use this deck opposed to that deck because you'll get a clear answer, then that's what I'll do. So we're not going to be talking about how to read cards in this session. We're just talking about how to set up for a reading in this session. I will also have a light on my desk because, at least for me, being able to see it very clearly in a lit area changes the reading. Being in a dark area sometimes supports spirit communication a little better. So if I want it to be a little more concrete and a less spirit communication, then I'll read in the light. I'll also turn the light off so I can read in a darker area. I like to have incense burning because the scent helps take me away. I also have a candle that you can't see, but I'll light a candle too to invite spirit in. In the next video, we'll be diving in specifically into tarot cards and how to read them. And I really hope that these videos will be useful to you. Thank you guys. Bye.